Development and Housing Grant Commission meeting at 8:36 on October 4th. Can I get a roll call, please?
Yeah. Adamson.
Here.
Draftcorn.
Here.
Ilias. Grammer.
Here.
Hausman. Lamorte. Levin. Moore.
Here.
Nwogu. Smith.
Here.
Quorum.
Okay. Next up, could I get a motion to approve the minutes from Wednesday, July
So moved.
12th? Thank you.
I'll second.
Mr. Smith and Ms. Draftcorn, all those in favor?
Aye.
All those against? Motion carries. Public comments. Is there anybody signed up for public comments? Okay, then we will move past seeing no old business on to new business. 5.1, the Treasury ERA 2. Hearings and funding recommendations. You want to start us off, Hans?
Yes, so this would be remaining admin dollars. We had some funds come back from the Housing Authority who previously had managed the entire overall ERA 2 program. With those funds coming back, we're able to work to allocate those both the rental assistance funds, which we put to measures through the county board for October 17th board meeting, as well as service dollars, which is what you're hearing today. So we have $80,000, a little bit more than we had anticipated to allocate.
80, did you say?
80,000. And that was after reconciliation of all the Housing Authority dollars came back to us. So it was quite an undertaking that Joe did and finished up last month. With that being said, we'd be ready to go. I think we agreed that they could be heard in alphabetical order, barring the fact that we didn't have any specific order that they were listed in. So alphabetical works for us. So ready to go.
All right, so consumer credit counseling.
Darn, that first.
Thank you for joining us again.
I did want to say one more thing, and I didn't mean to cut everyone off, but both Home of the Sparrow and Consumer Credit will be receiving $100,000 of the rental assistance money upon county board approval, if that's approved by the board on the 17th. And that's for rental assistance to prevent evictions. Okay, there we go. We're at that preface.
Can I get a question in? That rental assistance, that part of it is not hotel vouchers though?
It can be, but there are other funds that are available for hotel vouchers from CDBG-CV that are still, that the county still has.
But Pioneer Center could use that for vouchers. If
They could.
If they.
They could to avoid shelter, you know. So that is eligible under this program.
Yeah, thank you.
Sure.
You just tell me next, because I don't have a clicker there. So
Oh, okay,
I'm your
good, I don't like that clicker. I go like this and
It's troublesome,
back
I
and
agree.
forward. So hi, I'm Donna Rasmus, I'm the Executive Director of Consumer Credit Counseling Service, and this is our courtroom liaison and housing counselor, Jan Hagerty. She's going to help me with some of the information about the courtroom liaison position. You can go ahead. You can go again. So I'm sure everybody's heard our mission to strengthen, empower communities through counseling, educating, and serving people in matters of personal finance and housing. So these are some of the things that we did throughout the pandemic that we were really feel like it was a win for us, and we were really successful at helping those lower than 80% of median income people in our county to stay in their homes. We were navigators. We had 2 counselors dedicated to being navigators in our office. That was their full-time job for 2+ years. We provided workshops online on our website and to the Housing Authority. It was provided as a part of receiving the assistance. And we had our courtroom liaison, which 3 of us participated in the beginning, and Jan is a rock star. She took it and ran with it, so she's continuing to be in there today. And then we participated in community resource days to help with people who are in imminent danger or who are already homeless. So for this round two, 2D, we're asking for $38,500 to continue some of those services. Of course, we're not in the McHugh we don't have any navigators anymore, but we're continuing to provide workshops to people who are requesting rental assistance. We want to continue to have the courtroom liaison there on Fridays when Judge Mangiamelli hears evictions. And we've been going to community resource days twice a month, I believe. And we're asking, we're going to be going a few more times a month, at least one, possibly all 4 Fridays that they have it. And then we're asking for part of the funds for administration of the rental assistance program. So I'm going to let Jan talk about our courtroom liaison program. It's been an amazing program. The judges in the courtroom and all of the people in the courtroom are the security officer, they're also helpful. So Jan's going to talk about this.
Well, during the pandemic, as you all well know, our agency went from mostly in-person appointments to mostly, well, almost exclusively phone and online appointments. The same thing happened with files. We used to have stacks of paper files, and now they really did a great job. And I say they because I wasn't there yet at the time. Did a great job of going online. But there's one place where just online and phone really does not work, and that's in the courtroom. I know that the idea of having someone such as ourselves in the eviction courtroom has been bounced around a few times in the past, but when the eviction moratorium was happening, when it was ending, it really became a necessity, and Consumer Credit was asked to kind of create a program where nothing had existed before. So Donna and previous director, the Donnas created that, and I got in on the tail end of the beginning. And I've said before, I think some of you have heard me say this, it's been so interesting and enriching for me. I've learned so much useless information about court, and so many of the sentences, the conversations that I have out in the hallway with tenants who are being sued for eviction start with, "I am not an attorney." But our presence there has been helpful. Judge Berg, who was previously the eviction court judge, said so, and Judge Mangiamelli also says so. It's very different though. Right after the moratorium ended, we were very busy, and my role included a lot of coordination between the case managers at Home of the Sparrow, Pioneer Center, and then of course our counselors who were navigating, and there was constant need for up-to-the-minute information that would come from those sources. Now that the CURAB funds are finished, there are still programs, there are still things we can do, some of which is just to let people know, or let the tenants themselves know how much they have possibly remaining, because the programs that we have to offer now, mostly the court-based rental assistance program through IDA, that's the biggest one anyway, coordinates with the McCurab Fund. So we're in the courtroom not as over the top busy as we were some time ago, and yet for those cases where our information matters, we haven't found a better way to do it. It helped us a great deal when Judge Mangiamelli decided to rearrange her schedule and do all the evictions on Fridays only. You can imagine that made us a lot more efficient, because going to the courtroom every day and then being there for 20 minutes to an hour is just way more expensive than going once a week and pretty much being there all morning.
So, thanks. So, you can see these numbers here. So the number on the left is the current January through July 31 eviction hearings that we've been in the courtroom witnessing, and the numbers in parentheses are from the beginning of the pandemic, or from the beginning of our McHugh. So you can see they're The numbers are quite big. So,
Did you want me to move forward?
yeah.
Okay.
And then the community resource days, I went back and I did a 3-month look at what has happened in community resource days. And in the past, we have only seen a couple of people when it first started. You know, they would just kind of come in and they saw consumer credit, and they thought we were, you know, going to try and give them a credit card or something. So now they know what we're here for. The whole community resource days with Willow and with Gina and her team, those people come to us. And so in the last 12 weeks, there have been 568 attendees, and you would think, most people would think that those numbers are dropping now, but they're not. They're rising, and there's an average of 12 new people every week. That's an average. Some weeks there's 20 new people. So, Faith. So the courtroom liaison is there to provide up-to-date assistance, and she tells the judge what assistance has already been received, who has maxed out their money, the status of current IDA programs, and then we also make the tenants aware of other things that they may be eligible for. Our outreach, and as I said, we provide all that information at the resource days too, and we collaborate with all the other agencies there, and you know, we're constantly doing a warm handoff from one agency to another. So we estimate that we're going to help approximately 1,200 people with all of our with the funding that we get for if we receive the entire 38.5. 125 clients in eviction court, community resource days, a little over 1,000, and then with the rental assistance, 20 to 30 clients. That's it. Any questions?
Thank you. Anybody have any questions?
Sure, right off the bat, I'm looking at the application that says 18,500.
Yeah, the number was increased based on the addition of funds to them for the $100,000 rental assistance. So that was revised as a result of that and incorporated in only into the presentation.
I'm confused. Why? They got $100,000 in rental applications, so they're asking for more here?
They're, right, because this is a service component, the 100,000 is strictly rental
Oh, so
assistance.
they need more money to service the 100,000.
That's correct.
Okay. That makes sense.
So is this 38 for one position?
No, it's for the courtroom liaison. It's for someone to attend community resource days, and it's also for the administration of the rental assistance program, the counseling and the admins,
Okay.
the administrative costs. Go ahead.
The community resource days, I'm not familiar with Willow Church. Where's that at?
It's at 100 South Main Street. I don't know what the building used to be, but it's
It's in Crystal Lake.
it's in Crystal
Crystal
Lake
Lake.
across from Ormsby Motors, I think. kind of.
Do other organizations attend that?
There are about 30 other organizations, give or take,
Yes.
that are showing up every Friday, and some come every other Friday, like we usually come every other Friday, but
But for different purposes? Or, I mean,
All
there's a
to
lot,
help.
the reason I'm asking, I guess, is we get, several groups have come to us asking for money for outreach programs. And I'm trying to, who does you outreach into that's different than they're outreach into, or?
I think we're all outreaching to the same population, but for entirely different purposes. There are people who are homeless, and so Compassion for Campers is there providing, tents and things that they can use to live outside with people who are already homeless. There's us, there's Perry State Legal, who is there to help people, with any of their,
Do they help them right at the location right there that day, or do they refer them and you meet with them later?
It depends. A lot of people can do everything right there, and
Okay.
so, we help them right there on the spot.
Just wondering if it was more efficient to have an outreach coordinator that would say, okay, you group of people get in this line because we're gonna send you to consumer credit, you group of people get in this line because we're gonna send you to.
So people show up there on Fridays, they get a shower, they get a hot meal, they get some take-home gifts, might be a tent, might be a box of food, partly prepared or ready to eat on the literally on the street. So there are lines, because, they're waiting for showers, waiting to see an attorney, waiting to see a financial counselor to help them figure out how to get a first month's rent saved up. One of the big challenges is getting people there. It's a wonderful service, and there are people that count on that for a shower and a meal once a week.
To bring their children.
Yeah, but there's, the transportation situation here in McHenry County. So part of that outreach surely is, I know with WarpCore, it's helping people get there and then get back. But those are services that are continually needed, and they do have a lot of volunteers from several organizations, including the church, helping people just find their way around and make sure that they're accessing all the services that are possible. There's a list of food pantries here, all of it.
And I think a lot of the times when people come there, they may come for one thing. And then when they're talking to the people when they're talking to us and they're like, well, I can't buy food because I, don't have the money, then we can refer them over to, a food pantry. Or they come for one thing, and then we find, just like when we do a counseling session, we find that there are a lot of other things that are affecting their mental health, their physical health, their families' well-being, and so we can move those people through the large space of Willow Church to all of the things that they need, or all the things that are there that they may need.
Obviously, we got more requests than money than usual. So I had this all graphed out here for the half a full-time
Oh, sorry.
employee for 16,000.
The 18,500.
And now it's at 38,500. So the half full-time employee for the courthouse liaison is still sort of a solid thing, right?
Mm-hmm.
And then the street outreach would be still 0.25?
Yeah.
And the rest of it would be for the administration, and there was whatever the other ones was. Is that like a full-time person, or is that just sort of put through the program?
That is
And used
that is for our staff doing intake, counseling sessions for people who are needing the rental assistance, for the bookkeeping, all of the admin.
Okay.
Our agency makes great use of part-time people who have lots of experience and big hearts and don't demand high wages and insurance. So there are several part-timers so like if the community resource days, that's your whole morning, you're out of the office, you're gone. So there are part-time people who can increase their hours if needed.
And my point being is if it's a full-time person, it doesn't do any good to half fund a full-time person. It's either there or it isn't there. But it sounds like you would make do with and work it into the system and part-time people, and anything you got would help be helpful,
Yeah.
kind of thing.
That's what we do.
Thank you.
Any other questions?
I have a question. You were showing on the one slide the number of eviction hearings this year. What is that trend? Yeah.
So-
What is that trend? Is it increasing?
Oh.
Is it going down? I know you also listed the number of cases that have been.
The number of hearings is more than the number of individuals. We want to track separately for the number of different families. And so there are two different, I was tracking because we don't want to count the same household twice. And there are some that come back through, even with new case numbers months later. So the number of households that we've helped is different than the number of hearings. And eviction hearings, it's a minimum of 2, but some people are in court several times, particularly if they are going for rental assistance, because they'll get continuances to wait for results. So are they going up? Honestly, I have to say it's a little hard to tell because the two judges have a little bit different style, and I think that we're actually having more hearings than we were before, even though the dollar amounts are smaller. That's probably the most striking difference, is that right after the moratorium ended, we were seeing judgments in the, 20,000 wasn't that unusual. They were all over 12,000 for sure. Now those numbers are more unusual, and we're seeing a lot of $2,000, $3,000, $6,000 judgments. So are the number of hearings going up? Yes, but I don't think it's more people or more serious that I can tell. I don't know if that helps, but it's a little muddy because I'm confused in doing the tracking, you know.
Okay.
Oh, wait, we've seen these people before. Oh, wait, you know, it seems like we have more hearings, but yet it's not more people.
And when we talk to Judge Mangiamelli, she indicates that she believes that this is not slowing down. It's
Right.
not going to. Foreclosures and evictions, yeah.
It was sort of like the snake that swallowed the pig, you know, after the moratorium, there were all this pent-up demand because they had had to wait so long. But now we're back to what I think is more normal, which is that people, you know, they miss that second month's rent and the landlord starts, you know, sends a 5-day notice and starts the process. So they're not waiting so long to get in there.
Okay.
Any other questions? Great. Well, thank you for coming in and thank you for your patience as we can all get regrouped.
Thank you all.
So next up is Home of the Sparrow.
I'm your clicker. I was gonna say, this time I won't be fooled thinking that I'm doing something like the last time I was presenting.
Rush
I
me. What are you
know.
doing? Just like time.
Well, good morning, everybody. I'm Kristen Miller. I'm the grants manager at Home of the Sparrow.
Liz Hennigs, Vice President of Programs at Home of the Sparrow.
I can advance this one for you. So we're here today, obviously with everybody else, asking for funding out of ERA 2D now, which I can't believe we're on 2D. But we have been involved with this program since its start, providing both the rental assistance and utility assistance component. As Hans mentioned, we will be continuing to do so, as we found out since submitting the application for this funding. We'll be taking on additional monies for that. So we've been doing that for a long time now. And we are planning to continue. So to date, we've been helping households secure more than $1.9 million in assistance through housing and doing housing relocation and stabilization case management. So we are not only doing the distribution of the rental assistance, but the case management component has been instrumental to this program as well, helping people as they're receiving their rental assistance to stabilize so that when that assistance ends, they're hopefully in a better place than when they started. We currently have 2 staff members who are dedicated to our ERA efforts, and try as we might, we can't get them off of it, so they're going to continue to do so. Other additional staff are also contributing to the efforts as we have need for them. Again, helping with getting people in the system, in Neighborly, getting their applications in or their recertifications in, and then again, providing that follow-up housing stabilization case management. One staff who was previously funded through other iterations of this funding is now has joined us full-time. So we are keeping her on staff because we are seeing the need not go away, as Consumer Credit just mentioned. And 2 additional staff just joined us actually at full-time as of 10/1. So again, I think that just speaks to the fact that this is not going away anytime soon. We see that it's been important to invest in those individuals and bring them on full-time. Next slide, please. So we're asking $40,390 is our total ask. I think I realized on our cover letter, one of my little lines did not carry through, so I brought it to you here so you can see what this fully covers. So these are covering 13 2-week pay periods of 80 hours each pay period through 3/31. Covering an intake coordinator, who's one of those 2 staff who we brought on full-time, and one of the housing case managers. Both positions will be providing linkage case management, assessment for shelter and shelter diversion services, and discharge and transition planning. These numbers that we provided here were prior to us knowing about the $100,000 that is coming in. So we actually anticipate these numbers will go up now that we have additional rental assistance dollars to disperse that we will be working on. So these numbers are definitely lower than what are now going to be anticipated with the additional rental assistance that we are taking on. Next slide, Faith. And then I'll let Liz speak a little bit to what exactly our case managers are doing.
One of the things that's been unique about the McCura program with Homeless Sparrows, we're really providing the case management. We're not just processing the applications, paying the rent, or, working with those particular landlords, just processing. The case managers are really helping them to deal with whatever their issues are. And what we're seeing and what happened during this is that either Consumer Credit or the Housing Authority, if there was a high need case, they say, oh, give it to Homeless Sparrow, only because we had the case managers to provide much more intensive work. A lot of it was relocation. These were families being evicted that had no place to go, and so we helped them find places for them to go. And so wanting to keep them stabilized so they wouldn't run back in eviction court, getting them employed, and helping them through that. But what we saw was just a lot of trauma, and a lot of families, not only the adults, but the kids really struggling, not having a secure place to sleep every night. You don't realize the impact of that, having a consistent place to say is home. And then also the housing searches. It's one of the things that we have other rental assistance programs. The landlords know us, and that we really seek out landlords to be able to provide that. So we're looking on landlord engagement and trying to, I don't want to say convince, but encourage them to work with our families, because we're a part of the program. It's not we're just paying the rent and then we're leaving. We're here, we're going to talk to you, we're going to meet with you, and we're going to problem solve. And then just stabilizing the family, which a lot of times that means getting them the counseling services they need, giving them the support they need from Consumer Credit. Some of them have income, they just don't know how to budget it. Others had no income, and we needed to be able to, we have an education, or a employment education specialist. That's all she does, is try to work with them on employment. And then linkages. Making sure that we're not a one-stop shop, that we try to work great with our partners. I think we all have a great relationship through the continuum, and outside of that to see if what types of services are needed. And then obviously discharge planning. We do provide aftercare, so after we feel they're stable, we do stay involved. Could be up to 3 months, 6 months, 9 months, a year. But we put so much energy into these families, we really want to help keep them stabilized.
Yeah, so just as a point of reference for everybody, I know we didn't have some of the numbers in here, but because we were kind of in the process of tabulating, but for our fiscal year 2023, which ended June 30th, we served 286 individuals with McEurope. That included both the rental assistance and discharge planning. Prior to that, we had served, I think in the first, since 2021 up through fiscal year 2022, it was up to 600 in that first big wave of the post-pandemic assistance, when a lot of the moratoriums were ending, as Consumer Credit mentioned, and we were seeing a great need there. So we've been just kind of swimming in this for a long time. We don't see any end in sight, but we're happy to be a provider that's able to do this service for the community. And again, coming to you, the Commission, for this ERA funding for the supportive services piece is because, like we said, we are really truly invested in the case management component of this, that we don't want to be just a place where you get your rent paid, for a short term, and then you're no better off than where you started.
I think the other thing to realize why the numbers have dropped is those families that were able to stabilize with the McEurope funding stabilized. We got a lot of the families, or the families that came to us, were the ones that needed more support. And so that's why the intensity has changed. We're not spending. Is that a hint?
The Oscar music.
Yeah, that we're not just processing applications, where in the beginning there was a lot of just talking with the clients, the landlords, getting everybody involved, where now it's really more the case management. We do process the applications, but it's for the clients that we are working with. The nice thing is I have 2 staff members, 3 actually, that have been with us the whole time. They know the agency, they know the program, they know the needs, they know the resources. They always joke with me, I never let them go, they're always gonna stay. Even if they go to a part-time job or a full-time, they come back to me part-time. You get a good person, you gotta keep them. So I had 3 amazing staff. I mean, I have more, but in terms of this project.
Great, any questions?
Thank you. Questions?
I have questions. Sorry to preempt you there.
Go
Mary.
ahead.
So numbers you were giving, number of households was a 1.9 million. So I just figured out that's like $10,900 per household. Does that
Yeah,
sound
I mean,
about right?
if you average like that, some obviously needed more, some needed less, just depending. Near the end, which there's never an end, as Hans has shown me, that there were people who only got 12 months assistance and then were eligible for another 8 months. And so there were some people where they had been cut off at 12 months but really needed more of the 18 months. And so their amounts, again, have been a little smaller as we move forward, but basically, that's, I mean, if you want to average. But I would say we paid 3 months of their rent in advance. The rents are outrageous. That seems kind of low to me, actually. You know, the fair market rate has gone up, which has helped us a little bit. But the reality is a 1-bedroom is like $1,500, and then it just goes up from there. So we're going to probably see, as the money is kind of winding down, we're going to see less and less of that.
Do you, I've got a couple questions.
Sure.
Go ahead.
We like questions.
Do you keep track of the number of clients or households that have helped and they've graduated and then come back?
Yes. So it's very low. We are seeing, we've had some clients that have gone through McEurope and still need support. There's some that have been out of the system that come back to the system. I know HMIS tracks that. We're seeing more and more of that. I think in terms of being out of the system and coming directly back, it's about 3 that we have seen that have not been successful in the last, I think, 1.5 to 2 years.
And I think you might answer my other question. Is there any type of coordination between the different agencies so that you can keep track of people that might just be going?
Oh, yeah, through HMIS. We
And
can
what is HMIS? I haven't heard that acronym
Management
before.
Information System.
Okay.
Yeah.
So they make sure they're not
Double
basically
dipping.
what you're
Double
saying.
dipping.
Yeah, duplicating and
Yes.
what services they have received. You know, there's some people that have received every service in the world, and we look at them and we're like, okay, like, they obviously need more than just rental assistance. They really probably need more group home experience if they're not able to live on their own. Gina and I were just talking about that today. But yeah, we coordinate, we have to. There's 4 or 5 providers within the community that we're best friends with on a daily basis, and then there are others that we have relationships with that need some of the supportive services around us.
I'll just tack on to that as well, that with the Homeless Management Information System, we're able to track within our own agency as well. And a nice thing about McEurope, and what a great resource it's been for us, is that it's also been assisting and helping to stabilize clients who are exiting some of our other programs, at Home of the Sparrow even. So we have individuals who've been assisted through maybe our HUD Rapid Rehousing Program, who continue to need, whether it's just that stabilization case management, or perhaps they're eligible for additional rental assistance after that program has ended. This has been a nice resource for us, but we're able to track that and make sure that nobody's double dipping, or, you know, as Faith said, you know, we're coordinating between other agencies as well, and we can do kind of that warm handoff to the next agency if they're, you know, a better fit to, you know, work with consumer credit in their program. You know, we can do that warm handoff as well. So McEurope's been a very nice kind of safety net, I should say, you know, kind of for our clients and for us as an agency, that we can, you know, really make sure that everybody's getting the support that they need to be stable as we're all trying to navigate, I'm sure all of our partners are trying to navigate all these programs that came to us during the pandemic and that we're still trying to, some are expiring, some are just starting up. This has been kind of a nice constant for us and enables us to really make sure, again, that we emphasize that stabilization piece.
And our affordable program, which these are clients who have to be working in order to be eligible for the program. Well, about 3/4 of them during the pandemic lost their jobs. And so this program really helped stabilize them to be able to stay in their housing, stay with us, get jobs, and move on. And so right now, they're all done and they're all stabilized. So that was kind of our trial, remember, back in the beginning was, let's start with that population, because we already had a pretty good relationship. I mean, obviously, they're in our homes, but we had a relationship with them to be able to get the kinds of support that we needed. So they were, I was really proud. I think that was about $400,000 of support that those families were able to get just in that smaller program.
Larry?
I've got a question for Alex. The $100,000 rental assistance that Ms. Sparrow's getting, and what other group is getting that?
Consumer credit counseling.
Okay.
And where'd that money come from?
That is returned money from the housing authority. They returned $375,000, and so that means we have
Why did they return it?
They sort of just wound down the program earlier this year.
Oh, they're not doing it anymore?
They're not doing it.
Oh, okay.
So that's Consumer Credit and Homeless Bureau, not Pioneer?
Not Pioneer.
Because I'd asked about the hotel vouchers, but that's not something you guys do.
They can.
We can, and in the pandemic, we did have funding that allowed for hotel vouchers. So we did use that to get people who were evicted into hotels, into apartments. So we did use that as a transition.
This would be eligible for them to do that with too.
Correct.
And then, could we go back to the slide about the full-time employees?
Sure.
I just got part of it on my application here, and I want to make sure I'm
Yeah,
not
of
missing
course.
something.
Yeah, I queued up Pioneers, so hang on.
Like I said, I think our cover letter cut off one of my,
Yeah, it looks
word cut off one of my columns
I got
there. I
one right.
realized, as I was putting together the presentation, I said, oh my goodness.
Yeah,
Okay.
and Consumer Credit Counseling
Yeah.
had added to the request that I
Right.
wasn't looking at.
Understood.
Case
But even though you don't have that line there, the request is still a total of the 40,000.
Correct.
300 or whatever it is.
Correct. So this is how it
And
splits out.
On your cover letter that I have on my screen here, it says intake coordinator, full-time employee, permanent.
Yes.
But
Yes, and that is still the case here. So both of these numbers here, the hourly rates there are for are bringing those employees on as full-time permanent employees. One thing that I should have mentioned in the presentation, so thank you for that, is that originally through ERA, these two positions were actually being funded as contractual positions with us. And as such, we were actually able to pay them a little bit higher of a rate since we weren't paying benefits or any of the fringe or anything that goes along with that. Bringing them on full-time lowers the amount per hour and actually enables us to then lower the ask actually to fund these employees. Since we are bringing them on full-time, we're now, at what's a little bit more of a, what we're seeing as the market rate for full-time employees. And the amounts are not covering 100% of either position because we are sourcing from other grants to help subsidize this, because we realize that, as I mentioned, this is kind of, ERA is part of kind of the larger picture of our whole agency, so we're making sure that we're sourcing from appropriate funds so that no single fund is solely responsible for these positions.
the permanent part,
Mhm.
full-time permanent for 6 months? Or-
They're going to be permanent with us for indefinite. I mean, they're permanent employees. Obviously, this grant request is just covering through March for this program, which is what we anticipate the spend down for the rental assistance and ERA program is going to be. Moving forward, we'll subsidize these employees through other grants, donations, special events, all the things that we normally would for any employee.
And there's other rental assistance that the state has provided. Homeless Bureau got $498,000 in rental assistance. So we see this as kind of a trend that's moving ahead. And so we're anticipating that we will still get this $498,000 next year. And so Like I said, I don't let staff go. I'll put them wherever there's funding and there's a program and something new. We've gotten another new program this year that I was able to put some staff into too. So it's just using your resources and similar to consumer credit.
Absolutely.
Thank you.
Yeah, thank you.
Thank you.
Any other questions?
Well, thank you.
Well, thank you
All
for
right.
coming in.
Yep, thank you.
We'll move on to Pioneer Center.
I thought they were doing it in alphabetical.
Good morning. Thanks for having us.
I'm your clicker, just as a reminder, let me know when you want to do this.
Yeah, we can move. So, first of all, my name is Frank Samuel. I'm the CEO for Pioneer Center. Carrie?
I'm Carrie Friend. I'm the Director of Homeless Services at Pioneer Center.
So thank you for having us. It's always a pleasure coming and presenting our requests. It's also an opportunity to walk you through, give you a perspective of what we do. So Pioneer Center is in 3 distinct pillars of services. So the largest pillar is developmental disabilities. And then we also have the behavioral health services, which we do a lot of counseling, therapy, homeless youth services, all that. And then the homeless services, which this request relates to. We run a 70-bed shelter. Carrie manages that. So it's somewhat complex to run an organization like that, but it also helps us reach deeply and broadly into the community and support the needs of the community. So it's great to be able to do that. I think we are the only provider that has those 3 different services. Somewhat complex, but we also leverage capabilities across those 3 pillars. And so we are a lot more efficient, I think, in providing those services. Every dollar of funding we get goes a long way to support those needs. Just a perspective of some of the highlights. If you look at the numbers, we provided about 31,000 meals at the shelter last year. We serve 1,600 men, women, children, 98 individuals with disabilities were served. So we have 15 group homes, 10 in the developmental disabilities and 5 in the behavioral health side. So it just gives you a perspective of the reach and depth of our services. Next. All right, I'll turn it over to Carrie to talk about some of these numbers.
Okay, so as far as homeless services goes, I have some even more recent stats for you guys from fiscal year 23, which ended June 30th. We served 185 individuals or family members experiencing homelessness. That included 16 families with a total of 36 kids. And those people spent a total of 14,034 nights in the PADS year-round emergency shelter facility. I'm going to talk to you a little bit more about that after I get through this slide about what we're seeing now. But that included 149 adults, 90 men, 57 women, 1 gender neutral. The 36 kids were 17 male, 18 female, 1 transgender. The average length of stay for people between the people who were still at the shelter and the people that left was 66 days. That surprises most people. Most people think that our guests come and that they're there and they're there and they're there and they're there. But we're having a lot of success getting people to better outcomes. So as quickly as we're moving people into more stable outcomes, of course we have people coming in. And for fiscal year 23, we served 42,102 meals from our commercial kitchen. So that's been exciting to be able to do that and have that kitchen open. Just want to share a little bit of what we're seeing now. We're actually running out of room in our women's sleeping area. We put in trundle beds. We did everything we could to try to squeeze as many people as we could into that room. We've even used our family room that we built in the Phase 3 construction. We are using our multi-purpose room that we would love to be able to use for storage, but we're just not able to because we would rather be able to put a family in there rather than our stuff. We even, as excited as we were about our drop-in office, to be able to give clients privacy, to be able to meet with psychiatrists or to meet with Home of the Sparrow when they come to the shelter or other partner agencies. We've even had to put a family in that room. So then when partners do come in, we're just going to use any available space we have at the shelter to be able to give people some privacy, to be able to meet with other providers. Another thing that you'll hear me talk about a little bit more later, and I of course would welcome Gina's input too, is we've actually been using our hotel voucher program for the overflow because we have so many women and children right now. Right now we have 7 families at the shelter. By the end of tomorrow we'll have 9, and it'll include 16 children right now. So you see on that slide that we served a total of 36 children all of last year, but by the end of tomorrow I'm going to have 16 there all at one time. So we're definitely seeing an influx there. Can you go to the next slide, please? So our ask today is for $50,000, and that would cover a case management position. And then we also are in need of more hotel vouchers. Okay, so I know there was some talk about it earlier, but what I would want you to know is we have all different reasons that we use the hotel vouchers. So you'll hear some people talk about our cold weather program. Well, when people donate money specifically to the cold weather program, that's all we can use it for. It's restricted to cold weather. But there's lots of other reasons that we need hotel voucher money. So we, for example, what I just said, we sometimes have to use it as an overflow of the shelter because we don't have enough space until we get somebody maybe moved to Home of the Sparrow or whatever the case might be. We put people in hotels when it's really hot. The cold weather program doesn't cover that. Or if there's a torrential downpour or different weather-related situations. If somebody tests positive for COVID or some other type of communicable disease, we would put them in there to be able to isolate from the rest of the group to try to keep everybody safe. And sorry, I didn't even notice that you were doing that, Brandon. Okay. So I better wrap it up here pretty quick. So there's all different kinds of reasons that we use the hotel voucher program, so that's important. So these staff would provide case management services to the most vulnerable homeless clients. It would assist people. They would assist the person who can't sustain housing with continued program participation, because you can't just find somebody a place to live. You got to take the time to be able to help people to be able to maintain that housing. We anticipate that it would serve at least 50 clients. Can you go to the next slide? That doesn't, the motel program would serve more than 50, but as far as the case management position. One of the reasons that we're in need of this is the shelter capacity has increased more than we actually even expected. Even though we're having a lot of success getting people to better outcomes, we're just getting slammed with people needing to come in. And the funding that was provided to households during the pandemic has ended. Households aren't able to sustain with the current rents and stagnant pay, so we're seeing a lot of people that can't afford to live anywhere in the county. A lot of other shelters are at capacity and have a wait list. As I had said, we're using our hotel program as an overflow in support of our Intact Families policy. We like to try to keep families together if we're able to. And additional case managers are required to provide an appropriate level of services because we are seeing an influx of clients. And I think that's my last slide. And of course, I could go on all morning. I wanted to do that before Brandon got to us. 1 minute.
I haven't used this one yet today.
Do you guys have any questions?
Okay, go ahead, Larry.
The full-time case management person, is that would that be a new employee or to help pay someone that's already on staff?
It would be an additional staff person, and we have case managers now, but they're funded through the Mental Health Board, so this would be something in addition to that, and it would be funded separately, because we have a that's fee for service, so that would be funded differently. This would be in addition to that.
That's all I got.
Anybody else have a question? I have a question only because this came up during
Sure.
our public
I love
health meeting. So I understand you're a 24-hour shelter, but at 7 o'clock is kind of the cutoff time when people can check in. Is that correct
Yeah.
or not?
We are open 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, 365 days a year. I know
So-
kind of where you're going with this.
So
It's
if
like a
somebody
very.
comes in at like 2 o'clock in the morning.
Yep, so this isn't part of this ask, but we are also in the process of rolling out what we're calling an urgent resource support program, and it operates from the hours of 10 p.m. at night until 7 in the morning, 7 days a week. And if somebody shows up at the shelter, the police are dropping somebody off at night at the shelter, we're going to be doing a very brief assessment with people. It won't matter whether they're McHenry County residents or not. We want to be able to provide, like a help right at that moment, and it might include a gift card to go to the local motel, but it's not going to be part of the same hotel voucher program. And
That was kind of where I was going
something
with the
different.
hotel vouchers.
yeah, it's
Yeah,
a
for
separate
this.
program, and we'll be tracking that differently because this is a pilot program that we're trying to roll out, so we want to see exactly what the need is of people who are showing up in the middle of the night between those hours.
So these vouchers will be strictly used for overflow?
Yeah, overflow, you said
All those, it would be different weather conditions,
Gotcha.
overflow,
Your hot weather,
communicable diseases. Now, it doesn't mean that it could possibly serve one of those people that came during the night. Let's say they came during the night, we give them that assistance, and then we decide that they're gonna eventually intake into pads, but we need to be able to run the background and do the pre-intake, so we may put them in that other program for a couple nights. So I wouldn't want to go as far as to say that we wouldn't use these funds for some of those people, because it could happen. We would use it for whatever we needed to be able to keep people.
Collaborations too.
Yep.
Lots of collaborations, like this weekend with law enforcement. We used our hotel program to help them when they had somebody not leaving the police station and needed services. We were able to put them in the hotel program. So we use it to collaborate with any of the agencies in the continuum if they need help.
Okay, does anybody else have any other questions? Okay, well, thank you for coming in
Thank you.
again.
Thank you for
Thank
the
you very
opportunity
much.
to present.
Thank you so much.
Let's see. So, at what point are we deliberating here? I'm just moving down.
I haven't gone yet either.
Right, okay, so we have one more.
We have one more?
So I don't know if I have that.
She's
Do I not have-
5.2, so I think.
Oh,
Yeah,
down on the
okay,
agenda,
So I'm
okay.
not, okay. I'm like, okay, so we will move on to 5.2 with a presentation for not-for-profit resources.
Thank you.
Could I ask a good question? This is on our new agenda, and because I'm looking at the email that we had gotten for the meeting that we didn't have.
It
didn't
is.
change.
It's the same, 5.2,
So this is,
not-for-profit resources. I got the old agenda.
but it's not out of the
It's not coming out of
80K.
ERA two.
It's not coming out of the 80, it's something different, okay. And where's that money coming from and how much is it?
This would be administrative dollars, so this is one of those awards, just like the environmental defenders that we use, the CDBG administrative funds, which is 20% of the annual allocation. That's typically around $275,000 that's used for, staff salaries and things like that, but we also are able to do planning with those funds. And so this is one of those planning and capacity building measures they come in every year to kind of give an update to the commission in order to continue the blessing to go ahead with continuing to provide funding.
Okay.
Hi, and I'm Vicki Drondel. I'm standing in for Lori Bavona, our Executive Director. She's ill and couldn't make it. I'm Director of Strategic Partnerships for our organization. So I'm happy to be here, thank you. If you want to go ahead forward. So our mission really is to help build nonprofit capacity. We work with all the nonprofits in the county. Really, we're almost like self-care for nonprofits. If you think of what we do, we're very unique. Our programs and services surround our workshops, our grant tools, volunteer connections are very critical, and an outcome of that is the networking and consultations that we provide. If you go forward. So our team is Lori Bavona, our Executive Director, Heidi Berardi is our Program and Outreach Director, and myself, Vicki Drondel. If you'd go forward. So why do we do what we do? We really, truly are about support. Like I said, we're very unique in McHenry County because we are an outreach to all the nonprofits. Often when I'm out in the community, and my role is to work with businesses on sponsorships for us, I hear quite a few things about, oh, do you need a volunteer for this? Or I want to volunteer, I know someone who would like to volunteer. So I'm trying to make all those connections and talk about our workshops and help with skill building. There's so many things that happen, as a result of working to support the nonprofits. You can go forward. So 67% of McHenry County nonprofits have told us their greatest need is professional development. So any business really does need the tools and the knowledge to support that business. And a nonprofit isn't any different, they just can't afford it, is what it comes down to. We help with fundraising strategies, marketing and communication, grant writing, we've done board development. We have our ear to the ground on the training that they require. We're keen to listen and help with that. So in a nonprofit study recently, 45% of nonprofit employees said they would seek different employment in the next 5 years, which is really concerning, since 23% said it would not be within another nonprofit, and nonprofits are struggling. I mean, you're hearing that too. They're struggling to hire needed staff. 49% said they don't pay enough. That's not a surprise. 19% said that nonprofits don't offer good long-term career opportunities, which is where we come in with offering training to help them grow. And 12% concluded that nonprofits are not well-run businesses. If you'd go forward. So we really work to change that perspective. So some of our big accomplishments. We served 165 nonprofits, connected almost 5,800 people to volunteer opportunities, and that's really people looking and nonprofits looking. We work both directions to make those connections happen. 772 workshop attendees, and the key, and we track all this data, but 97% stated they gained one or more skills that really helped them during that workshop. We had 48 different class topics, 105 hours of instruction, and in addition, 160 consultations and individualized instruction with people that we worked with throughout the community. So one of the key, actually it's a pretty new workshop series is Manage Strong, and that's where Heidi is literally right now conducting our first Manage Strong workshop series for this fall. We created that in collaboration with the nonprofits. They had come to us and said, we're really busy hiring, and we don't have the skills needed for the team leads, the supervisors, the managers. Now, can you help us put together a workshop that can train these people? And it's been very successful. We run it in the spring and the fall, and we rotate between an on-site forum, and doing it via Zoom. And people have really liked that. So we're able to attract depending on whether they want to be on site and network or be, on Zoom. So outcomes, 12 workshops, 275 attendees, 41 unique organizations. We've utilized over 27 instructors now to provide this education. And it's all about finding their management style, building teams, creating ownership in the workplace. A really important topic has been performance reviews. That creates a lot of discussion at the workshop. We also have an online resource center, of which GrantStation is very important. That's a software we utilize so that nonprofits can actually just dial in or get in on the web and look for grant resources. Volunteer portal is also really critical. If you go forward. So our partnership really, the funded agencies and the knowledge gaps, they're looking for grant resources they're eligible for. That's so critical. They're looking for the leadership skills that they need and how to integrate DEI. The training needs just continue. You can go forward. So topics.
Maybe I went too far forward there, sorry.
That's okay. Topics that we have presented, the McHenry Funder Panel, outputs and outcomes is important. The Manage Strong series, which I told you we run, DEI, grant writing essentials is always well attended. Succession planning, the board recruitment, anything with process improvement becomes very important, and they also attend. Engaging donors is also critical.
Keeps doubling.
It's doubling up on you.
It is.
And I'm not going to read all the participant testimony, but on our surveys, we really do get excellent feedback that helps us improve, and we solicit that from our attendees because the goal is to improve. And they always are very thankful for the instruction they receive, and they give us ideas on what else they want to see going forward. Oh, some of our favorite instructors, and we have so many. We utilize NIU, Elisa Shadowman. Bobby Bainey is actually on our board and has done multiple webinars for us and on-site. Marcy Picos. We have quite a list of instructors. There's more actually than is listed there. We couldn't list them all. And again, our organization is very unique because we are a nonprofit like the others, which is why we come asking as well, for funding. But our sole purpose is to help the other nonprofits grow and to build capacity. And the only way we're able to really do that is through the training we provide and listening to what their goals and needs are and helping them to get through the things they have to. Really thank you for your partnership, and look forward to answering anything I'm able to answer for you.
All right, thank you. I guess my first question would be, what has been the past funding, and what other funding resources are out there?
We receive funding from the Community Foundation and from United Way as well, and then private funding through businesses in the community.
And their request has typically been $15,000.
From here, yes, I'm sorry.
And that's what it is, it's 15,000.
It is 15,000, you're correct.
Do you have a building? I mean, where do you?
So
or
our
where do you
building,
do that?
that's an interesting question. We are in the mental health building.
In Crystal Lake?
In Crystal Lake, 620 South Dakota. The on-site workshops that we conduct are downstairs, which is nice. We have the large conference room we're able to use. And we're about, I would say, 90% Zoom, 10% on-site.
Oh,
Depends on
okay.
the type. You know, COVID changed everything.
Right.
And when we shifted and we went to Zoom, everybody was excited about that. They could sit at their desk, they could still join, they could still learn. There's a lot of chatter about we want to come back for some of these workshops. And there's some that quite honestly are just better because then there's the networking component.
Yeah.
The nonprofits do love to talk to one another and learn who's who. So that's a great resource. So we kind of look at upcoming workshops and decide how best to do it.
So do they charge you rent at the mental health?
They do. I don't know what that figure
Oh,
is.
okay.
I don't have the budget.
Okay.
But yes, we are charged rent. We have some office space upstairs.
Okay.
And then we utilize the conference rooms.
Yeah, I thought they would have an office here for some odd reason.
Not that I know of.
But I know there's so much room here. That's why I was stuck here.
Oh, so they don't let you leave, huh?
We're taking over part of Stormwater's room.
Larry, did you have a question?
Sure. Is this limited to McHenry County nonprofits, or?
No, any nonprofit is able, and what's happened, actually, since we have been doing it via Zoom, is we have people who want to join from all over, because it's easy for them.
Sure.
Now, when we do an on-site, it is 99% McHenry, of course, because it's easy for them to get to.
And the instructors that you have listed there, are they volunteers or paid?
Some are paid and some are volunteers. Our board member has volunteered. She's voluntold. No, she offers her.
Yeah, okay. And then Hans, this is coming out of your administration budget. That's not an issue for you because you get overpaid anyway, right?
Oh, do you have more?
Yeah, no, this would not be an issue, you know, in this particular year. And of course, one of the things we always look at is our home allocation has increased since 2016. So, you know, probably what we typically do is split a little bit out of there as well. So but that's all admin dollars, so that's definitely not out of the pool of like service dollars and things like that.
Okay. So I have a question for you, Hans. Since you've been using nonprofit resources, have you noticed a difference in the efficiency of the nonprofits working with your staff in terms of requests and
Yeah, I would say
just the general process?
improvements in the areas of like grant applications and maybe doing their presentations, being ready for some of those things. I would say the area that is next in line is, we've talked to the auditor and to our finance team about accounts receivable training for nonprofit organizations, which is sort of not in their purview here, but maybe like Ader Casella, like an auditing organization could come in and do some training for our nonprofits that frequently receive grant funds. I think with COVID, we've seen that just a lot of dollars came in very quickly, and then suddenly it's like, okay, which grant is which kind of a thing. And maybe helping the organizations organize that so that there's less time on our end. We spend an awful lot of time helping keep that organized for them, and it needs to be kind of the other way around.
Yeah.
And so that's one of the areas where probably more administrative dollars would be spent on that. I think that would be very beneficial.
So are we at this point recommending that we continue to fund, or how?
It's
What do
a
we-
direction to staff
Okay.
to proceed.
Do we need to?
Do you need a motion? I'll make a
Yeah,
motion.
do we need a motion to?
I would say.
I don't really know.
I don't think
Transparency
so.
issue. We've in the past, we've asked for like a thumbs up.
Yeah.
With the general consensus?
Yeah, are you good with this direction?
I'm in.
So do we have a consensus?
Yeah, I'm fine with it. I think it's,
Okay.
yeah, it's worthwhile, the program, and the staff should move forward with it.
Great.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you
Thank you so
very
much
much.
for coming in.
Thank you, appreciate it. It was fun to watch all of you. Not that I wanted Lori to be sick.
Those seem 500.
Well, yeah, I want to
Funding
go back to
recommendations.
5.1 about recommendations for funding.
Yep, let me,
Yeah.
yeah.
Is that readable? Do I need to make it larger?
Pretty close.
It was an easy spreadsheet, right?
Yeah, this one.
Yeah. You sure you don't want me to do this?
I'm the old-fashioned way.
Yeah.
Is that all you have to show? Just that? Do you want me to blow it up?
Yeah, so I know we've had a couple of systems in the past on how to allocate. Since we only have 3, do we want to look at maybe talking about it? Is there anything that we know we want to fully fund right off the bat? Or do we?
I'll put it out there, and I don't fully fund, but I'll put it out there that I think what Consumer Credit Services does at the courthouse is a very worthwhile, and so I would start with the 16 for them, and 'cause I think that's just something that's very critical.
Was it the 18? The original?
Well,
It was 18.
It's 38, they're asking for a
38.
38
Yeah.
administration intake person too for, more staffing is what they want, beyond the courthouse.
So was the additional 20?
The liaison was 16,000 what they're asking for, and I think that's a very important component.
Right. Was that additional 20 to be added on to that they were asking for, to be added to that liaison?
I heard that it was to
It wasn't
help
for the-
run that extra 100,000 they got
Right.
in. Am I right? Did
Yes.
I hear that right?
I kind of feel like that should come out of 100,000.
I
That's a
don't
whole
know.
nother-
Can they do that?
That's a whole nother discussion.
Can they do that?
If it can, yes.
Do a percentage?
Oh,
of
yeah.
that? Like, kind of like we do a percentage for you.
Yeah, it's like, it's
You know what I
kind
mean?
of similar to CDBG.
Yeah.
And it's about, we see that as a reasonable cost for, because there's a lot of paperwork and documents that are collected for rental assistance application.
So part of the administration of the 100,000 can come out of the 100,000.
It would have to come out of these dollars that you're allocating today.
Oh, so it can't come out of.
Oh, it cannot come out of the 100.
Correct.
Oh.
That has to be strictly
Yeah.
assistance,
Correct.
not
Oh,
admin.
Correct.
well.
Yeah, there goes that idea.
No easy out today.
So what does everybody think based on that information?
Do we have the ability to graph the punch numbers in?
Yeah.
I can add my amounts here.
I mean, add
And
balance,
then
and
it'll
it
tell you how much
subtracts
is
from what
left.
we have left kind of thing?
Yeah, left to award is here.
No.
Well, and that's where I'll go with the 16 for the court, for the consumer credit thing right off the bat. And if anybody feels like they need to add more for administration, that's fine too. But that is, like I said, I think is an important thing. And the hotel vouchers for Pioneer Center too at the 15.
Yeah, that's on my list.
The rest of it, well, it's tough to cover additional staff and/or pay for the total amount of staff, especially since we don't have enough money there. So then it comes down to who do you want to help staff?
So let's
Yeah.
put.
Put 15 at the
So put
Pioneer
50
Center,
Yeah,
right?
15 in the Pioneer Center.
Non-secured. If we, not that those numbers are gonna end up that way, I don't want any of the
Yeah, don't.
people here thinking that. But if we, if we put 16,000 in consumer credit and say it's for the courthouse liaison, is that what it needs to be used for, or can they push that around and use it how they want to?
We could do it either way. So if we write it specifically to say courthouse liaison, it would go to the board that way.
Okay.
And it would be stated on the resolution.
And the same with the vouchers then?
Correct.
Okay.
Correct.
And I'm, just for the rest of the committee, I'm only asking that because I think those are two important things, in my opinion.
I agree.
How we help with the staffing is another big question.
Do we offer to staff one position for Home of the Sparrow for now?
We can. I think that was, oh, I didn't write down the breakdown between the two.
It was,
But
it was about even, almost even,
right?
pretty
Yeah.
even on the 20.
So that
yeah.
was 20,
I got 2198 for the intake person.
So which one would you pick, Sue?
Can I make a suggestion that would help you guys too? I just talked to Frank, it might help you. So we really need the hotel voucher money, but if you give us any funding for the case management position, we're only gonna be able to have the case manager as long as the funding lasts. And in some ways, it makes more sense to me for, like, Home of the Sparrows case managers, you're basically gonna be supporting case managers that are already there. So it makes more sense to me if you, do you get what I'm saying? Like,
You
so
have
your
to
case
hire one?
manager
Is what
will
you're
be a
saying.
new,
ours would be
person.
new, and the funding, we would only be able to have the person as of right now, as long as the funding would last. So basically, I'm saying that we would appreciate the 15,000 for the hotel voucher program, but would rather see the staff support go to like Home of the Sparrow or somewhere, because it's not, I think it makes more sense and it would benefit them more, because their staff are already there, they're permanent staff, and it would just help them out.
So as
Or
a new
wherever you
employee-
would send it.
So because it is a new employee, it's either sort of hire them or don't hire them kind of thing. You
Right,
don't
and
have
if
to
you
hire
fund
'em.
us partially, it's not gonna help us.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's true.
That's very gracious that you brought that forward.
Yeah, I didn't mean to interrupt, I just wanted to put that out
No,
there.
that's
it's helpful and we appreciate the insight.
That's great.
Yeah, we don't want to be greedy, and it just doesn't make sense.
Great. Okay.
Well, that makes that one easy.
I think that's very gracious. I think that's just,
Very good.
sort of dials that one in, for me, anyway. And then,
What's that voucher? Do I have the right amount then
Mhm.
for Pioneer? Okay. I just want to make sure I'm covering the vouchers. I'm not looking at that right now.
and I guess I get the intake coordinator for Home of the Sparrow was that, I hate to go back to people that are, this isn't really fair, but that's not a new person, that's just funding for somebody that's there and part of it, okay.
These are people who worked on the NICU bureau the whole time.
Yeah, okay, but they're already there.
They're
just
already there.
self-funding. So I sort of agree with what Sue said as far as the funding for the half of what Consumer Credit was asking for, the administration, and then Home of the Sparrow would get the balance. I'm just sort of splitting it in half, I guess.
So you're saying $21,000 Home of the Sparrow for one of those positions? Is that what
Yeah,
you're
I
saying,
think that's
Larry?
what Sue suggested. and
Yeah,
I
do for one,
Yeah. Okay.
to start.
Do that.
And they'll use it, the people are on staff, it helps get through.
So for Pioneer, let's see, there's 28,000 left.
When
That-
Consumer Credit is still looking for some staff, so if we put 20,000 there, then you're at 36, might as well do 38.5.
Can I ask another question? Sorry.
Mhm.
And I don't know, I'm just asking, are we able to ask for more for a hotel voucher? or not? And I understand if we can't, I just wanted to put it out there.
We're all looking at Hans.
Are there?
I would say like their overall request was higher, so you can always allocate more and just designate it that way.
Yeah,
I mean, if
stipulate
it was
the
like the
use.
request was a total of 15,000, I would say normally we'd never, the commission has never awarded more than they've asked for.
Yeah, that's
They asked for
right.
50, so you can allocate more and just say that this is the intent. It's sort of almost like a restricted donation, right, where the donor tells you what
Yeah.
you use the funds for.
Right.
But would you have the personnel to administer? Or are you looking for?
You're looking at it right here, she
A different-
runs it would just be for the vouchers, like the payment of the motel rooms, that's what it would be for, the money.
I don't think we need additional resources, if that's your question. We can support with Gina's and the other staff, current staff.
I'd like to see some money put on the consumer credit for the administration monies that they need, but I've lost.
Do you know, do you have a number?
Pardon?
Do you have a number?
Well, their initial.
I would total 22.5.
22,500.
No, I'm sorry.
In addition.
Addition.
Addition to the
You can put
16.
38.5 there.
In addition to the 16?
That's the full amount.
Oh, so that'd be the full.
Well, if we're gonna give them like for
Gotcha.
Well, the.
part of their administration, then
The street outreach was for 2,500, and that's to go to the community resource days.
correct. And unfortunately, my application here is not, that I'm looking at here is not
So
I have the
complete.
one
with
also.
5,500 left, we could increase
The vouchers?
vouchers a little bit.
That's what I think.
And then also to Home of the Sparrow, too. Since those are existing positions.
Home of the Sparrow has the extra $100,000 to manage. They have the staff in place, it's just a matter of helping them
Yeah.
pay
They
for it.
also have different.
And they can use some of that for hotel vouchers also if they need to.
Can they use some of that for?
Yes.
So I'd advocate that the 5,500 goes to the Home of the Sparrow.
For hotel vouchers?
Or for whatever they want to use it for.
Whatever.
I think it's a good organization that does a great job in McHenry County, and I'd give them $5 million if I had it.
Can we-
As long as your money, so if
We had that 2.5 years ago, actually.
It's harder to work
16 million.
So anyway, that's just my input. I respect everybody at the table here, so.
So with that, with the hotel vouchers, and I guess that's just fresh on my mind from our last PHCS meeting, that, you know, there is a very big gap in placing people in a lot of times.
Gap in the
hotel
vouchers and gap in the need,
vouchers.
like, there's more
Well,
people. that
And
need
the
it.
vouchers come in handy to kind of help fill that
Bridge that
gap.
gap.
And I just,
Would you be opposed to increasing Pioneer's Center for the vouchers by a couple $1,000 and then the balance going to Home of the Sparrow?
That would be fine if it's.
I'd rather see it all go to vouchers myself.
Well, good.
The five.
We got a little dissension on the board.
You met with Pioneer Center? Is that where you wanted to go? Okay.
I mean, that sounds like they're busting at the seams. And that's what I heard,
For women and kids.
for women and kids. And you want to keep the families in the unit, which makes it tough.
Right.
You can't just throw them in a room like this with 5 other families. I mean, that's your idea, right?
And usually they're waiting on us to have a spot open up for
Yeah.
families. So I would
I'm okay
rather
with that.
them have the hotel money and us not administer it, because they have the relationships with the hotels. I really need it for the staff.
Well, that changes everything.
I mean, I would take it, but they.
Good honest input is all I would agree.
There's a definite need there.
There's an entry point
Yeah,
where.
definitely, like Marty says,
put it here.
Done deal, then. I'd go with Robert today. I mean Sue's.
So the
Yep.
remaining to Pioneer Center
That's my
for vouchers.
wish.
And you guys are
Okay.
good
Okay
at
with
being
that?
able to administer that?
Sure. Yeah.
The question would be, do we put the condition on that it is hotel vouchers or not?
Yeah. It's all for, yeah, I think we can put that as a, restricted donation or restricted to vouchers.
I'm okay with that.
Okay, then I think we probably need a motion to,
I'll make a motion. Will we approve that funding as listed on there?
I'll second.
seconded by Mr. Smith. I think we'll do a roll call.
Can I ask a first question on that?
Sure.
I'm involved with Consumer Credit, I'm on their board. Am I
So we
staying
have
with the
to-
road, or we have to petition it out, or?
We could vote on each one
Yeah, so you're saying
separately.
the
Why don't-
majority follows, yeah. right,
Okay.
So.
Why don't we
Whatever works.
Should we do that?
pull it out?
Can we make one other request? Could it be for the hotel program instead of just vouchers? Because there's food insecurity with these families. So when we put them in a hotel, we need to feed them.
The hotel program?
Yeah.
Is that what it's called?
Hotel program.
Hotel program.
Okay.
So what is the manner in which they receive, this might affect the answer to this.
Yeah.
What is the manner in which they receive the assistance?
They'll get a grocery store voucher or a food voucher so that they can feed their family. And then we also try to guide them to food pantries and such, so that they're not in a hotel.
Without food.
So they can't do an income payment, either with CDBG or this fund. So you could buy actual food and hand it to the client.
Oh,
Wait, that's with CDBG, actually, no food, not with this one.
We can't do food.
No food.
Services.
okay.
They could do services, you could drive, I would say you could drive somebody to a food pantry or to a grocery store, but not the income payment part. for
We'll have
sure.
to stick to the vouchers then, because
Okay.
we just don't have the
That might be
staff
easier.
to support taking,
Taking people that are
like,
shopping or
driving
whatever.
people
Yeah.
around to go get them food or even take them food possibly. So
Right.
It was a good question.
But yeah, it's even with CDBG, we can't do any kind of income payment. So if it was food, it has to be like a food pantry where there's actual food handed to the client, that
Gotcha.
kind of thing. So,
Robert, could I make a friendly amendment that we
Yes.
would change your motion to read that we accept the funding recommendation for for Home of the Sparrow and Pioneer Center? And I would be making the second to that.
Oh, we
And
just
Dick
split
can
it.
abstain.
Splitting it?
No, Dick can vote on this one.
No,
yeah.
Abstain on
And
the
then we'll move
consent
on to the
statement.
next. Okay.
Okay, is that good? Thanks.
Okay, we'll do roll call then. Adamson,
Yes.
Grammer,
Yes.
Draftcorn,
Yes.
Moore,
Yes.
Smith,
Yes.
Von Bergen.
Yes. All right, thank you. So could I get a motion for consumer credits?
Oh, yeah, I'd make a motion for the
Mr.
38.5 for consumer
Smith
credit as written on the board.
And a second.
I'll second.
Ms. Strathmore seconds. And a roll call, please.
Okay, Adamson,
Abstain.
Grammer,
Yes.
Draftcorn,
Yes.
Moore,
Yes.
Smith,
Yes.
Von Bergen.
Yes.
Motion carried.
I want to thank you guys for your willingness to work together and to kind of help us get those funds, to the areas that really make most sense and will help the most people. So thank you.
I mean, that's
Thank you.
Yeah, thank you.
Thank you, and we just really value our partnership with not just Consumer Credit Counseling, but Home of the Sparrow. We don't want to be greedy, we want the money to go to where it's going to best be used.
I mean, it's efficient resource, allocation of resources where that's needed and how we can service. We all about that. So, thank you.
great.
Yeah, no, that was great.
Yeah, it's refreshing to see a team.
It
Yeah.
really.
Yeah, I hear about it, but it's not.
Because of the rest of
It'd be really
Well,
tough to
thank
do
you all.
when we have the big, group, it'd be
Thank
tough.
you.
Seeing you guys.
Thank you.
Bye, have a great day.
I want them to get the idea that that's how we're gonna do it every time. This is just can't.
You know, I think Brandon sees it a lot with the continuum of care too. They all are really focused on the community before themselves, and it shows.
It's kind of an investment in future goodwill.
Yes, Right.
definitely, yeah.
Yep.
Okay. 2024 meeting dates, membership terms, and 24 funds.
So as far as the meeting dates, obviously, we need to select next year's meeting days and figure out whether Wednesdays 8:30 works for everybody. And generally, we'll do January if we've got need for it, March, July, September. We're holding the funding round for CDBG and home for fiscal year 2024 that just opened. And the anticipation would be probably for March hearings on CDBG and January for home.
And treasury.
Oh, and the treasury, yeah. July, we typically just make presentations to things like not-for-profit resources and have some projects come in and give status updates to you. And then we come to this full round at the end of the year where we're prepping for the next year, and we might have some straggler funding or something. So just thinking about that, does that kind of seasonal meeting make sense to you? And do Wednesdays at 8:30s, and maybe we can pull up a calendar and take a look?
Well, Wednesdays are still good for me. And Thursdays would be bad, so.
Wednesdays generally seem to work for the county finding rooms.
Better than other days.
Yeah, I mean, I think the next day would be a Friday, and I think nobody ever
No, I
wants
don't want
a
a
Friday.
Friday.
So,
No.
No, I'm good with Wednesdays.
Yeah. Yes.
We do have the elections next year, so that always kind of takes up some of the rooms upstairs.
Oh,
for
yeah.
Yearly voting, so.
That's right.
Well, I think the whole goal is to plan as early as possible, which is why we're coming to you now, so that we
Oh,
can
we
start to.
put in first, we get it?
We've already been
Is
asked,
there a
yeah,
mechanism?
we've already gotten that email, like, when are your dates for
Oh.
senior services and all these
Oh, yeah,
elections,
yeah.
so.
Can
And that's why
imagine.
they know the elections take up part of the space, and then they take up, they lock the machines up in here sometimes
Oh.
too. And it takes up this whole area
Yeah.
over here, so.
My only conflict on Wednesdays are transportation, so. But we've worked around those pretty much all year, so.
Transportation is usually
What
last
Which
Wednesday.
Which week?
It's-
Second or third week?
Transportation
I
is
think
usually
it's
last week of
the
the month.
third, go to my calendar. Actually, she may even already have them in there for next.
Well, I'll go with right now, I'm out of town a lot at the end of the month, so we have Wednesday meetings, which is great, but not the last Wednesday.
And we actually like them kind of earlier in the month anyway, because we can take it to PHCS.
Get on the agenda.
Without,
yeah.
without missing that, so it's better
Yeah.
for us too. Otherwise, it just delays everything by another month.
That helps me, if it's earlier in the month.
It's delayed.
Yeah.
I know, it's like pretty sweet.
Yeah.
Because transportation is day before public health, so I got 2 in a row. Let's see, so January, when would that be?
Get this together. I didn't want to be messing around in there trying to do this. So, oops, not very easy.
Oh, you're way off.
Just kind of looking at January here.
It looked like transportation was the last week.
Generally, we kind of go in here, that's not
Yeah,
gonna work,
so we-
so.
Yeah, it's second week.
I would say
They-
17th in that case, because, finance and audit's gonna be a conflict for Larry.
Yeah, well, how come it's on the 10th that month?
When is it
Do you
usually?
really think they're gonna
Well,
have
usually it'd be on
those?
Thursday, the 11th.
I think
You really think
it's
they'll
too
have
crammed in,
the
with the
second
holidays
one?
and everything. It's one of those weird
And
months like
there's
that.
county
Yeah.
board's got something here. committee of the
That's the
whole,
count. Yeah,
so,
because-
I mean, it would overlap.
You have to have your county board on the third
Can't-
Tuesday.
Can't be cloned that day, sorry, we can't.
The 17th is fine with me, I guess, but
Yeah, we could still get it to PHCS. That's fine.
Yeah, that would work. All right, let's skip forward to March and see what that looks like. Might have to do a Tuesday, Wednesday, like 12, 13.
is that going to be the meeting where we have the presenters, the big
Yeah.
group
Like
of
the
presenters?
all-dayers or half-dayers or
Well,
whatever?
you've either got county board on Thursday or Tuesday. There seems to be no way that you're not gonna be here for that on top, but,
Tuesdays and Thursdays are always tough.
yeah.
I got distracted. Are you on March?
Yeah, now we're on March.
12 and 13 works for me.
Works for me.
Sounds
Yep.
good for me.
The count the next day then on that Thursday.
Doesn't matter.
So you guys should just bring sleep bags with you.
It's gonna mess up my week and I can't do it. It's gonna mess up my week.
That's your life, Larry. This place messes up your week anyway.
Yes, yes it does.
All right, now we're skipping to July. Want to do the 10th, or no, we probably should do the 17th.
Why?
So just one,
I think Hans will probably have vacation that week ahead.
Oh.
Doesn't matter about me though, so, yeah.
Oh, it's all about you, Hans, come on.
The 4th being on a Thursday. I don't know.
Okay.
We could do either, I mean,
The 10th would be better for me.
10th is better?
Yeah.
okay. Not that you can't be going.
No, yeah, I think
I
there
can
might
take
not
it.
be a meeting with any hearings or anything anyhow.
Yeah, that's usually a shorty anyway.
Like
isn't
an
it?
informational one, yeah, so
We can hold it down for you.
I think. We hire people.
Yeah. House will be on the beach.
Well, it's July, maybe not. We don't- Yeah, Thursday.
Okay, do you want to do the 11th for September, or 18th?
is that just a one day?
Works for me.
Generally, yeah.
11th, yeah.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah. Okay, so we have January 17th, March 12th and 13th, July 10th, and September 11th.
You'll send that out in an email?
Sure will.
Thank you.
Perfect.
Do we have to vote on that, or is that just kind of a planning thing?
Yeah,
Let's do
it's
that.
just a
Okay.
planning thing, yeah.
So that's a Tuesday, I'll make sure that's a Tuesday, Wednesday. Thank you for working through that. I know that's always kind of a complication. Going through that too, on that note, we have members that seem to be not able to make several meetings in a row. Recently, we also have members that have terms that are expiring. So that's another part of this 5.3. We have expiring terms for Robert Levin, George Nwogu, Lou Hausman, and Marty Moore. I know I've spoken to Lou and Marty a couple times because they've been here to speak to, and also had noted that in an email. And I think that the application round is going to be open anytime now if it isn't already on the meeting portal. And it's supposed to be giving you an email notice. That's new with eScribe, and I'm not sure if it's working yet, but I just want you to be aware of it. So there was a link I sent in an email about how to go in and find the application and submit it. And they've improved the process on that. I had also received note from Melissa that she's dealing with something where she doesn't think that she'll be able to make meetings, and she's asked if we wish for her to step down to let her know. So we'll have some vacancies coming up, 4, possibly 5 if Melissa steps down.
It's Levin, Moore, Hausman,
Mogu.
So if our term expires, we got to reapply.
Yeah.
yes, Mr.
So Marty and Lou are reapplying, I hope. Great.
Yeah.
Okay. Melissa's asked, already said she can't make the meetings. I think we should do
I think we
something
should.
formal to ask for a resignation letter, and
Yeah,
and then we
I
know
agree.
it's a done deal.
She's offered to.
I mean, if she's offered to and knows she's not gonna be at the meetings anyway, we might as well
Yeah.
get it in writing and.
Yeah.
I mean, it wasn't her, you could tell it wasn't her anticipation to do so. Something
Well,
comes
things
up
come up.
and it just, you know, it's life.
Yeah, yeah.
But she has offered to, so we can give her formal
I
notification.
mean, if we got the formal notification, that gives us that spot that we know we can fill and
And if the
not-
application
not
is
filling
out
it and then
there.
doing it after the fact or something.
Sure,
Yeah.
we don't want to have quorum problems. Nobody wants to
No.
reschedule
Yeah.
meetings, so.
No.
Get warm in
This
here.
No, you're fine. The fact that you came when you said you'd come. Yeah. Thank you.
And the last part of this is actually about the 2024 upcoming CDBG and home round. So one of the things that we agreed to do, and we did, is we sent out a survey that Brandon put out through social media and through our email links and things like that. We got 105 responses. So we did a very basic survey. We wanted to know what the community thought about just overall topic areas. And so the one area that we did not include in here was infrastructure. To me, that's like your sewer projects and things, water issues and things. Those are table stakes. Those are definite CDBG needs. They're typically going to be communities that don't have the resources to cover those costs, or they have partial resources, and so those tend to be projects that we're going to hear about anyway. We're always going to have those. But some of the other areas we did have covered in here, and I'll give you, we were looking for a number between 0 and 100. 0 means you don't like it, 100 means you really love it, and what do you think about it? So parks, that got a score of 48. Public services, 71, the most popular category. So it would be things like your case management, mental health, substance abuse services, and those kinds of things. Down payment assistance, this is the thing we get the most calls about in our office, 43%. So that's
For
on the
what?
lower end.
Down payment assistance.
Oh.
Down payment assistance, and that could be done under home or
And
CDBG.
didn't you mention that the banks can take care of that?
Federal home
Or-
loan, that kind of stuff. Yeah.
And as well as IDA has a program,
Oh, do
the
they?
Housing and Development Authority. So we've often just referred people over to that link, and they'll work with a local bank on that.
Yeah.
So that's what we've been doing. So that program seems to be working. Small business assistance, meaning business more than 5 people up to 50, 53%. Rehab of public facilities, 61%. That's our second most popular category. Our third most, actually.
Rehab of public facilities.
Public facilities, so this would be things like libraries, homeless shelters, those kinds of things, group homes. Housing is our second most popular category, 64%, not surprised at all there. Micro enterprises, that's the 5 or fewer employees, one of whom is the owner. That's our lowest score, 39%. Homeowner rehab, this surprised me, 43%, and that's very popular. And I'll tell you a little bit more about that in a minute. And then elimination of slum and blight was our last category. You know, do you not like looking at ugly buildings that are falling apart? That's a 47. Again, another number that surprised me, but it's one of the last questions, so maybe people got kind of tired of answering. So we did look at that too. So as you go from the sort of the top, you know, all 105 people answered about the park. And then as you went down, some people maybe didn't answer some of them. And maybe they just weren't interested in that particular item. They just skipped it and went on to the next one. So that gives sort of an idea here, and we can definitely have this back out at the time, as well as some other dynamics to look at, such as, you know, the amount the community or organization has received in funds, like what percentage the CDBG is covering of the costs. So we like to see some cost sharing there. Those dynamics I think we can look at as in terms of what we provide to the commission members when you get these in March. So, or January maybe if we're doing home in January. So anyway, just wanted to give you an overview of that as part of 5.3. But our current funding round is open right now through January 4th. So these organizations have plenty of time to apply for CDBG and home. And with that being open right now, we're there, of course, to answer questions and have open meetings or direct meetings with the organizations as needed to assist them with their questions. So that's where we're at.
Do you want me to send that as well?
These
Yeah,
certainly.
would you like me to send those out? I think these are good for when we start looking at our consolidated 5-year plan
Yeah.
for 2025 and the next 5 years on, to kind of keep that in mind for goals. I could send this in an email as well.
And one of the things to add in about that too, what we often do, especially with the consolidated plan, is like the services category, which is a pretty high score here. We'll go into a little more detail on a future survey. So that would be like, here's a list of services now, and now tell us what services that you want. Because then what we see is we tend to see things like that housing services or assistance are high, mental health services are pretty high, substance abuse are high. Things like the Girl Scouts are kind of on the low end, you know, those kind of like kids programs and things like that. That's what we saw in the last survey. So we will do it again. Obviously, the last time we did that was 2018, I think. So it's time for another one, and then that affects the next plan, the 2025 through 2029 plan.
Did that go out just through email?
Email and social media,
Social
and it closed on the 29th.
Last Friday.
Yeah.
I got it, so I filled it out.
Oh, good.
Hopefully it was kind of fun using the sliders.
I can't imagine though that someone would have gotten tired by the end of it to not actually enter.
It
because
took like
it's
6
wasn't that bad.
Yeah. It was pretty easy to do survey, so.
like not even 3 minutes. I mean, it was.
Yeah. Yeah, so anyway, so it was really interesting information that we got out of this, and again, some of the categories don't surprise me, like the services, we get a lot of requests for those. And we have that cap on the services, so we can't go past that. But other ones, you know, were surprises to me. You know, like I said, the homeowner rehab was a surprise, but that's not higher because, again, when I talk to you about the roofing program, you'll hear how interesting that is, so.
Just have what the workforce. We have a couple of just general announcements, and I had this pretty slideshow, so I'll just pop up a couple of, a lot of this is just kind of gone over. It was pretty. I was kind of channeling summer. This became.
It's been your shirt today, too.
Yeah, I really was, yeah.
It looks like a crack that needs to be fixed.
Yeah, right, CDBG. So we had kind of given an update on the YIMBY, or Yes in My Backyard. It's now morphed into pro-housing. We've been in discussions with, what is it, Lake, DuPage, Kane, Will, us, and supposedly Cook County is involved, but they weren't on a meeting. We're kind of talking to them. CMAP is Chicago Metropolitan Area Planning. They're wanting to do a regional application for this funding. And so they had spoken to us and all the other counties, and they were prepping for an application to be submitted in. They've got to apply for it at the end of this month. They asked us some basic questions surrounding our needs in the area so that they can put together a comprehensive plan. And I guess we'll find out whether we've got some funding coming for this or not. As a county on our own, we don't qualify for this funding. We wouldn't be a priority for it. But the other counties were, I'm not sure if Will was, but like Kane and Lake and Cook definitely were. DuPage, I think, was. So that's okay. A certain portion of it could come to us, and they'd be looking for you know, barriers to affordable housing. This could be zoning. It could be any kind of your planning tools, your setbacks for lots, your land coverage. It could be expenses for permitting and things like that on our side. Yeah, go ahead.
So, County Board Member Lou Ness, and I believe she's working with Pam Althoff on affordable housing. Are they part of this conversation? Or?
Yes.
Yeah, this is spoken to them through the Workforce Housing Development
So they're part
Task
of it,
Force. And they're aware of this as well. It's kind of branched off. It's not really part of that, but it's being talked about there.
And you guys did a short little presentation at Public Health on that program
Okay,
too.
just-
So, yeah.
Or you don't want them to, like, they were going down this path and you guys are going down this path?
No, not at all. Yeah, you know, so to kind of add to that a little bit, when we learned about it, like at one of our conferences, you know, like probably early this year, like in January. And so we came to the Public Health and Community Services Committee earlier in the year and said, you know, we would like permission to apply. We have to go to the committee to get agreement to apply for grants unless it's a real tight timeframe, we can't make it. But, so we did, and we came to the committee, and you've sort of got the blessing the same way we agreed to fund non-for-profit resources earlier today. And, you know, what we said during that meeting was that we would partner with CMAP if there was an interest in doing it, because that would be a stronger application. As it turned out, that's exactly what happened. I have a little more to add to that. Also, as of this morning or late last night, their staff person from CMAP was working on this. So out of the $85 million in available funds, the Chicago metropolitan area outside of Kendall will be requesting $10 million in funds. They were thinking somewhere around 7 or 8 million, so it's all the way up to the maximum. And out of all the counties, $5 million is provided in leverage over about 3 to 4 years. So then that trickles down to the county levels, but they'll have sort of like a menu of things that are eligible activities under this program. So this is actually CDBG money. It's the sort of like that. There's certain times CDBG comes from a different source, and this would be one of those times. So other times are earmarks or the disaster relief programs, those kinds of things. It's done separately. But what this would entail is housing activities, and they'll have, like I said, a menu. So there'll be things, definitely planning is involved in it, but they'll have things like localized. So what are your priorities in your local community? Does it mean construction of housing is a priority? Homeowner occupied rehab would be eligible. I'm assuming down payment assistance programs, you know, so rental rehab, those would be probably pretty common projects. And those are things that we've historically done anyway through this commission. So it would be basically just an enhanced funds. They're thinking something like, according to this, $7 million of the 10 proposed would be for county implementation, so that each county can undertake larger countywide efforts like launching land trusts or piloting commercial adaptive reuse. Those are other examples. So land trusts are a little more, I would say, a bit more challenging with our tax costs here and property taxes in the county. But commercial adaptive reuse, that's something that people have brought up numerous times, especially in the workforce housing work group, that we have so many shopping malls that just have died off, and what are we going to do with that now? So there's a lot kind of in this, and it's this, unfortunately, HUD did not give a really long time to pull all this together. So CMAP's, the guy was working at like 11 o'clock last night working on this and sending things out. So my job by the end of the day is to review everything he sent us. It's 40-something pages, and tell him what we want to change out of that. But we did provide a lot of documentation to them. So that's one of the things that we're just going to get done today. But this is a really good thing that they're willing to take that on, and that they could support funding coming to us as a community. And obviously assisting the workforce housing work group with planning efforts, which I think would be also very helpful.
Yeah, that's the key way. It doesn't overlap, but pairs well.
Yes.
Once we identify with the Workforce Housing Task Force, kind of what's going on and what we might need to help us make the plan to execute some of those steps so that we can move forward.
And one other thing I'll point out, just because I know this would probably affect things and whatever. So Cook County would be all of Cook County that's not Chicago. So they, you know, it's more than likely the city itself would apply separately, or if they're eligible for it. So this is suburban Cook only out of the group. And then again, as I mentioned, not Kendall, for whatever reasons they chose not to participate. So.
And then our CMAP liaison, Carolyn Schofield, would be involved in all this too, apparently?
She hasn't so far, but I would imagine she would be things start to progress. As I mentioned, it's just been moving very quickly.
Okay.
Their key staff person down there is Jonathan Birch, and he's been the person who's working on sort of coordinating everything with the counties. So I can definitely reach out to ensure she's aware of it. I think that would be helpful.
Yeah, I mean, Carolyn does a good job, likes to be involved. She'd be a good voice for us if there was going to be something that she was going to be part of, and she had a little head start on it. I think it'd be good.
Yeah. Anything that helps advocate the cause, I think this is a really great effort, you know, and especially we're not applying on our own. As Faith mentioned, we're not a priority area just because we don't have as many areas of priority need as other counties do. So when we looked all of that up, it was like it would not make sense for us to apply as a sole applicant.
Yeah.
We would automatically lose 10 points right off the top, you know, so that would not be a good way to start that off. next thing, okay.
It's just for Dan.
Yep, so we kicked the can really hard on this one. We're gonna have this come to you in the summertime, and what we realized is that the implementation is just the application. We paired the program up to look like home, so this is the $1.8 million of ERA2 that was pulled aside for affordable housing development. And what we did is we kicked the can for the deadline to November 30th of '23 to allow organizations enough time to apply. And the main reasons for that is it does follow the home program, but there's certain things you can't do or that you're limited on. And so one of them is a limit of 50% of area median income. Home is normally 60 or 80%. The other thing would be you can't acquire land or a building. So they have to already have the land or a building, or have something underway. To give you some perspective that these are some of the projects that you've heard about ERA2 probably for a long time now, like 2.5 years. You've heard about Home ARP and all these other things. This funding goes to September 30th of 2025. So we still have 2 more years to go of ERA2 overall, whether it's doing rental assistance or motels, or if it's doing housing. It's going to be going on for quite a while. But this is something that, we think that by allowing the extra time, that it would allow the organizations to have a little bit more leverage toward their projects. Costs have been continually going up, et cetera. So this would be something that will be coming to this group with the applications at the January meeting. So at the same time as you would be allocating home funds, it's going to look a lot like home. That's the time that you'll hear this. And then, as we already talked about, we had sort of a scoring for these applications that we agreed on, that we would be providing to you at that time based on what we get as applications. So we have had some interest, and it's typically, I think the big barrier is that acquisition piece. Is if we can't acquire land, how do we, or property, how do we do this? So what you may see is, you may see some applicants come in, and I haven't heard anybody ask for this yet, but you may see somebody come in for, like, I want to acquire the land with CDBG, which you can do, but CDBG hearings are going to be after this. So there's something to keep in mind, that maybe we'll see what we get as applications if somebody does request to do that, how we might entertain that.
Hans, I have a question.
Sure.
The ERA2, what is that an acronym? I mean, what
Sure.
exactly is it? I've heard it, it's like, I don't know.
It's the Treasury's Emergency Rental Assistance Program.
Emergency rental assistance.
So yeah, and they say ERA sometimes, but it's ERAs has mostly been the
Okay.
sort of acronym used for it. And ERA1's done, that one's sort of.
So even though it's
almost
emergency rental assistance, this is going to be basically on working with developments?
Developments, correct. Yeah, so the Secretary of the Treasury was authorized by a certain date of summer of last year to agree whether or not they wanted to allow affordable housing or development of affordable housing. And once they did that, we had come to the board earlier this year, or was it last year? To authorize the 25% set aside. So that just basically said that we've obligated this toward housing. And we met with the Treasury staff person, et cetera, to kind of cover what we intended to do. So we'll probably be meeting with that person again, just about what remaining funds we have and what our options are for those. So with the $200,000 that's going between Home and the Sparrow and Consumer Credit, there's still at least $157,000 left of rental assistance dollars. Could be used for utilities as well. But we have some ideas that we want to run across them before we go out to the community and say, like, these are our ideas. We want to see if we can even do it before we do that. Otherwise, it might end up that they get rolled into Home, the Sparrow, or Consumer Credit at a later date. But those funds the limit on affordable housing is the 1.8. That's the max that we could go to.
This is nice because we've got about a 36% shortage of rental available nationwide. So being able to use some of this as development of rental would be great. Which certainly helps with their goal to rent out to people.
Okay.
That's all she wrote.
That's all it says.
I got.
So I did want to run a few other things past, and I don't want to make this an incredibly long meeting, but these are things that you've heard about, again, for a while, and to give you an idea of how long they're running and what they're doing at this point. So earlier this year, you allocated a good amount of money for CV funds, CDBG, CV, COVID funds. We needed to get to 80% by November of this year, and so what we said was sort of like this guideline for the subrecipient agreements was going to be September 30th, that we wanted them sort of wrapped up with their projects by that date so that we can get to that 80% number. In the meantime, HUD relaxed that demand, so that was the 3-year mark of when we got our contract. So we no longer had to meet the 80%, but we did. We were at 82% spent down of that $2.25 million. So the remaining funds that are there, there'll be another small pool that'll come to the commission, and it'll at some point be projects that underspent. It'll be one of those kind of situations. That would be hopefully the final allocation that we make out of this fund. And then we have 3 more years to go with it basically at this point. So that'll be sort of a slow road. Some of the projects are longer term. For example, there was an allocation made to Full Circle for a housing development. So they still have more time to be able to use those funds. So those are just kind of set aside right now. So it's a pretty good spend down. We're really proud of the fact that we pushed through and got through to past the 80%. We still wanted to go to that benchmark regardless of whether we needed to. Another one that you will hear about a lot is home ARP. So it's another $2.25 million that was allocated out by the commission for 2 projects that are bigger. One of them is Taylor Place, that will be going under construction in downtown McHenry. They've got like $760,000 out of that fund. The other one is also Full Circle with another, their Pearl Street 2 location by their Pearl Street, by the church over there on 31. That we have until September 30th of 2030.
Oh my. Wow.
So this is again another one that you'll be hearing about probably for a really long time. That'll be trickling along. We would like to get done far before that time frame with these funds. I don't want to linger on that long with it, but we do have that long of a time to spend those. A couple other things I wanted to talk about though is just to kind of give you an idea of some of the big things that we've been working on. And that's we're always constantly doing something, right? So what we did is this commission allocated funds to the Housing Authority in 2021 and 22, if I'm not mistaken, off the top of my head. Every year the Housing Authority would come in for owner-occupied rehab funds, and they sort of put a pause on that with COVID. And what we did is we worked with them to really reimagine that project to be a roofing program. And then you probably have seen things go out in all those emails and things that Brandon sends out, that we had like a pre-application process, and now we have, what we did is a lottery for the selection of the individuals receiving assistance. And then it goes in a priority order of who scores the highest, like seniors are prioritized, lower incomes prioritized, et cetera. And then obviously how compromised the roof might be would be another priority factor. And so we selected 25 recipients out of the lottery. And I just want to read an excerpt of one of the ones that worked with Michelle from our team to complete their full application, and that's where they're collecting all the documents, et cetera, before we hand them off to the Housing Authority to work with the contractors, the contractor pool that we procured. But what she said was, Michelle, I'm still in shock. Thank you for your time and kindness. No words can ever express what this all means to me. So thank you over and over again to you and everyone else who are making this happen for me and many others. Such a gift, I don't think this lightly. So that was, I thought, a really nice comment from a community constituent who would be receiving owner-occupied rehab assistance. And so this is something this is sort of the type of project that's very common in CDBG, but we really like doing because it really directly affects the county residents like that. And obviously those are deferred maintenance things that sometimes as clients just can't afford those things, and it keeps them housed, and so that's the main goal here. We did talk about YIMBY and Pro Housing, rental assistance left, and then the last thing I have is we went to Public Health and Community Services last Thursday and talked about getting the permission to look into HUD's Older Adult Home Modification Program. What that program entails is working with sort of the medical team and working with clients and Habitat type of organizations to make simple home modifications for people that may be becoming more disabled or more compromised in their older age and not being able to get upstairs, that type of a thing. How do we re-envision the house at this point for them to live in? We sat through a webinar and looked through videos. We reached out to another organization that received a grant earlier this year. They're in their implementation process. But what we decided is we will not be applying at this time for that award, and namely because I think we'd like to see it either like a pilot of the program run at some point, or we just simply want to develop more infrastructure and outline of what it would look like before we apply. I think it's just not going to serve us well to shoot out an application when we don't have all the bells and whistles worked out. So I think that's better for how much time you invest in it. So we do have a staff person who's assigned to look at sort of work on that outline thing. But we'll be probably working with some of our Senior Services Grant Commission providers. One of the things, the reason that sort of surfaced was we had Habitat come in for funding out of the Senior Services Grant Fund this past year, and obviously there's a limited amount of money there as well. It's the same issue everywhere. And they were denied and turned down, just simply at the letter of intent process. So this was the alternative that we were looking into to bring in revenue for them to be able to work with those clients. But we think that spending a little more time on developing it is going to be better. There's also another one of these applications where it opened on like September 16th and closes like October 16th, something like that, like 30 days. It's just not enough time to develop all of that and do it well. We want to do it well when we submit it. Last thing is we do have our second lead grant that starts right around now. We're working with negotiations with HUD on that one right now, so we're excited about that too. We got another $2 million in funds for that program, and that will be going for 4 years. That's Michelle's program that she works with. She's working from home today. So that's all I have though about our programs. We wanted to give you an update on some of these things. Again, you hear about them, but like, why are you still talking about that? It's been going on for years. ERA's been going on for years. So.
Hans, you mentioned that you had a lottery for that one, and there were 25 recipients. How many were in the pool, I guess?
Yeah, it was a very short window of time they could apply. It was like 32.
Okay.
We would have accepted up to 200. So those people, it was a pretty high saturation of people that got selected. One did drop out pretty early on. I think it was an income issue, like they were past 80%,
Right.
a very median income, so we would not have been able to select that person. We think like if a future round of this would probably be something, we'd probably have to come to the commission, obviously, just like everyone else, and say, here's us and the Housing Authority together working on this project, and this is what it looks like now. We want to see, after we start to get some houses done, how all this goes, and we'll know we'll probably get a few done this year and then kick back up in the springtime and finish some more of them. So, but we're looking forward to doing this project. I think this is really a really good benefit for the community.
My understanding was Habitat had formed people to please apply with this funding too. It didn't take anybody off,
Right.
Their list that didn't happen to apply, but if they had a list, they were all invited to come and apply for this.
Oh, that was another
If
one
they
we went
needed
to
moving.
Public Health and Community Services with was IDA had a home modification grant that was available. And we backed out and supported Habitat's application so they could do roofs with that program. But they actually selected the version of it where they could do more of the home modifications than roofs. So that was the reason that the Housing Authority's funds were directed simply toward roofs. It was that we're not doing as many at Habitat, but that's why we're getting applicants from them.
Yeah.
So we know when to apply and when not to apply.
I'm gonna have to bust your corner.
All right,
Quick.
well, all right, members' comments, any miscellaneous business announcements?
I think we covered
All right,
everything.
otherwise, I would entertain a motion to adjourn.
Moved. Second.
Thank you very much. All in favor?
you.
Aye.
Aye.
Motion passes. Thank you, everybody.